Hello and welcome to another PowerPoint VBA tutorial. In today's tutorial, we are going to cover how to work with a slide object inside of PowerPoint VBA. So we've seen in previous videos how to work with the text frames. We've seen how to copy objects over from Excel to PowerPoint. So now we're going to kind of start exploring the PowerPoint VBA object model. And one of the most basic objects we can work with is a slide object itself. So we're going to see how to add footers, headers. We're going to see how to add hyperlinks, comments, just understand the different indexes and IDs that exist within a slide. Just a lot of different useful information. Might not have a ton of examples of where we might use them right now, but I think just understanding the structure of a slide and really what you can do with it comes in handy. So the first thing I'm going to do, just so that way there's no issues, I'm going to delete some of this stuff. And then we're going to go into our Visual Basic Editor. If you haven't already, you can just insert a new module by right-clicking in the VBA project pane and then do insert module. And then once you're here, you can just do sub, and we'll just, give it something generic, work with slide. And then from here, we do have to declare some variables. The first one that we are going to declare is going to be called PPT slide. And this will be a slide object. And then we will have to declare another one that will be actually in the second subroutine that goes within this particular module. But that second one will add a hyperlink to our slide. But at this point, we can leave it just as is. So once we've done that, the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a reference to the slide that we want to work with. So here, what we're going to do is create a reference to the slide we want to work with. And that's very straightforward. It's just set PPT slide equal to the active presentation. And then we go into the slides collection and we pass through the index. The index is determined by the order in which the slides appear over here on the pane. So this one has an index of 1. If there was another one, that would have an index of 2, and so on. So that's how we select a slide. At least one method we can use to select a slide. And also keep in mind, I am referencing the active presentation. So just like inside of Excel, we have an active workbook. In PowerPoint, we have an active presentation. Okay, so now that we have a reference to that slide, let's work with one of the properties that belongs to the particular slide. In this example, we're going to be working with the header and footer property. So work with the header and footer property. And I am actually getting better. I am no longer as sick as I thought I was going to be. A little bit. Sleeping helps dramatically. I love it. So you're going to say with PPT slide, you're going to go into the headers footers property, and then we're going to do the end with. The reason I'm doing a with statement here is because I'm going to set multiple properties that belong to this particular object itself. So normally, if I'm going to be setting multiple properties, it just makes sense to do a with statement, so that way I can make my code a little bit more concise. So I'm going to call the date time property, and I'm going to call the visible property within that one, and I'm going to set that equal to true, so that will set a date time section on my slide. I also might want a slide number, and again, I want that to be visible, so I'm going to set that equal to true as well. And then I'm going to go into the footer property. I'm going to go and make sure that's visible, and then we're going to say, hey, make that true as well. And again, I'm going to go into my footer property. I'm going to go into the text property, and then I'm going to set that equal to, we'll just do something silly like, hi there or something like that. So ideally, you should be kind of seeing a pattern here. All I'm really doing is I'm either going into a particular property, making sure that we can see it first, and then once it's visible, then you can start changing certain properties about that. Normally, it's just like a text, but you can kind of tell right away. There's like use format, parent, lots of different things. We do have a footer and we have a header as well. It doesn't really make sense to have a header in this one, but just so you're aware, you can have headers as well. So there's nothing stopping you. So if I run this, it runs, and then if I go back to my slide, I now have my date time, my footer, and my slide number. So this is a easy way to add this information to a slide without having to go through a ton of processes. And you can loop through each slide if you wanted to, and then set this property for each slide if you wanted. there is an option like that. Okay, now that we've done that, let's do and add a comment. So we'll add a slide comment. This is very simple as well. We just go into the PPT slide object. We go into the comments collection, and then we call the add method. It does take a couple parameters. First one is the top location. I want it to be 100 points down from the top, and then I want it to be left 100 points in, and then I can have an author. I will just have that equal to my name, and then I can also have author initials, and then colon equal AR, and then I can also have the actual comment that I want to show to the user. So in this case, I'll give them something motivating. Looks good. And perfect. So this will add a comment to our particular slide. And then you'll see right here, a comment's been added. If I select this comment, I see the information that is related to it. So I can see what the comment is, who wrote it, and things along that nature. And then obviously too, the dimension is exactly where I was expecting it to be. So very useful. It does come in handy if you want to do like auto-generated ones. So things that basically like you might have a program that looks for certain formatting stuff. And if that formatting stuff doesn't exist, you can just auto-generate a comment that says, hey, you know, it was supposed to be a red color for this particular font. This would be an easy way to add that programmatically and make your job just reviewing the slide a little bit quicker, ideally. Now, I don't want the comment to keep being added because it's just going to keep adding one right on top of the other. So I'm going to actually comment out this line of code because I don't want it to run multiple times. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to just print out some info about our slide. This is things like the name, the slide number, slide index, just things along that nature. And so very straightforward. It's going to be debug print PPT slide, and then I want the name property, debug print PPT slide, and then it would be the slide number, print PPT slide, slide ID, and then debug print PPT slide, slide index. So some of these might return very similar information, and I'll kind of explain that. So the first one is the name of the slide. Why is this one a slide 3? Well, it's because I've added and deleted slides in this particular presentation. So as I add and delete, it just increments automatically. And so the name is simply the increment that we're on with this particular slide. The slide number is obviously the index as well. I believe one of these, I think, changes or something like that, but I think these two are exactly pretty much the same. And then we have this slide ID. I'm not really sure what this is because I think it's 258 for all of them. I'll have to kind of look that up, but this is just, again, a slide ID that is returned information. So again, sometimes it does have helpful information if we need to do it. I'm going to comment this out because, again, I don't want it to run on the next loop, and then I'm just going to delete all of that as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a tag to our slide. So tags are basically like almost like little comments that exist in the slide, but the user can't see them. So this is ways for you to mark your slides, but the user can't actually see those marks when they're looking at that particular slide. So it makes it really easy then to navigate to a particular slide, because now you can just add an if condition that says, hey, if my tag slide is blank, then, you know, continue forward in the process. So very simple. What we do is we call the PPT slide object. We go into the tags collection, and then we call the add method, and then it takes two parameters, the name. This will just be my tag. And then it has a value parameter as well. And then I'll call this something like finance slides. Perfect. So if I run this, nothing happens. You can see, hey, there's really nothing here, so I don't really understand what the benefit is. You can access a tag. It's not necessarily the most straightforward process, but it is possible. So if you want to access a tag, what you can do is you can say with the PPT slide dot tags, I'm going to close my end with statement, I'm going to put this up a little bit, and I'm just going to note that access a tag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for I equals 1 to dot count. So the number of tags that I have on this particular slide. And then I'm going to say next. And then I'm just going to print out some information. So debug print. And then I'll do name equals and name. And then we call the dot name property pass through the index that we are on the loop. And then I'm going to copy this. Print value. And then we're going to call the dot value property for that particular tag. And then we're just going to print it out. So this is how we would access a tag that belongs to a slide. So it's kind of a two-step part. First, we grab the tags collection that belongs to that particular slide, and then we loop through each tag using the count property, and then we just call the different properties that we want to display. And in this example, I'm using the debug print, so that way I can display to the user the name of the tag and the value. And so we can see that I get my name back and my value for that particular tag. So it definitely does come in handy if you do want to work with tags to make your working with the slides just a little bit easier. Okay, so let's do some other stuff. Let's maybe change the background color of our slide. And so we're going to say with PPT slide, and then end with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say follow master background. We want that to be false. What we're going to be saying is this particular slide, do not follow what the master template is, follow the specifications that I define. So by turning that off, we are saying, okay, if this one has a different background color, it is allowed to follow that background color. So we call the background property, the fill property, the back color property, and then I just have some different things. You can use different ones, RGB, parent. I'll use object theme color, and then I'll do MSO theme color background 2. And so this will change that particular background color. And so if I go back here, we can see that my background slide has now changed. Now, what if I want to copy this particular slide, right? Again, we can copy a slide. It just means we have to call the slide object and then the copy method, and then we can paste the slide in the presentation. And so what we can do is there's the active presentation, and then we can go into the slides collection, and then we can call the paste property. And so if I run this, you can see that it copied it and then it pasted it. Now, keep in mind though, because I copied it, it didn't follow the same background that it did before. Now, there is a way to do that. If you want to keep the same kind of background and stuff like that, you can duplicate a slide. And so we can, again, call the slide object, but then we're going to call the duplicate method. And so with the duplicate method, then it actually keeps the background settings that we use. So copy will not keep it, but duplicate will. So that's kind of the difference between using duplicate versus just a straightforward copy. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete some of these slides, and then I'm going to comment out this stuff because I don't want it to run every single time. Otherwise, I'll have a ton of slides that I don't really need. And then you can also do some more design stuff, I guess. I don't know if this will actually work. I have to double check. But if you go to PPT slide and then background style, and then you can do Microsoft Office background style preset. We'll do 9. I think that's what I had it at. This will kind of... So it just changes it to like a gradient. So there's like background design styles that you can use. You don't have to just do a solid fill if you want, but then you're working with background styles, not just a background fill. Okay, So in the next couple ones, we're going to be working with a hyperlink, but the first thing that I have to do is I have to add a hyperlink to a particular slide. So I'm going to say sub add hyperlink. Very similar. In fact, I can take pretty much all of this. It's almost identical. I am going to add one more variable. It's going to be called PPT shape as shape. So it's just going to be a shape object. Nothing too confusing there, hopefully. And then we're going to add a hyperlink. It's done in 2 steps. The first thing is we're going to add a text box with some text, and then we're going to add a hyperlink to that particular text box using an event, basically. So very not too complicated, but it is kind of a multi-step process. So add text box with text. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set PPT shape equal to the PPT slide. We're going to go into the shapes collection and we're going to say add text box. And it's down, it's down. Perfect. Add text box. It does take a couple parameters. The first one is the orientation parameter. I just want mine to be normal horizontal. So just like that. The next one is going to be left. I want it to be 30 from the left, and then top is going to be equal to 30. Width can be equal to 300, and then the height can be equal to 100. And so this will add a text box. And once I have that text box, let's put some text into it. So put some text into the text box. And so we're going to go PPT shape. We're going to go into the text frame property, and then the text range property, and then the text property. And then we're going to just say, hey, this is www.google.com. Keep in mind, this is not the hyperlink. So now that we have that, what we can do is we can say add a hyperlink. And then so what we're going to do is we're going to say with PPT shape dot text frame dot text range, and then there's something called action settings. And so what we can say is, hey, on a mouse click, so if they click on this particular text, what we want it to do is we want it to be a hyperlink. And so I'll close my end with statement, and then I can just add, basically add the hyperlink. And so we can say address, so this is where the hyperlink should go. I want it to go to https://www.google.com. And then I want a screen tip, so something if they hover over it, it will say this is a link to Google. And then I finally want a text to display. So this will override whatever is here. So just keep that in mind. And I can say my link to Google. And with this, if I run it, again, it now added it. And then if I actually open it, it will open up to Google. So very cool, very useful. Okay, so now that we have a hyperlink on our particular slide, let's actually work with it just a little bit. Nothing super crazy. But if you want, what you can do is if you go back up here, what we can do is we can work with the hyperlink object, because that's all it is. It's just an object. And what we will say is debug.print ppt slide. We'll go into the hyperlinks collection. We'll call the item method. We'll pass through the index, and then, hey, just print the address for me. It should be this. And then what I can also do is I can also then follow the link. So follow the hyperlink. And so if I do, I can go again the PPT slide, the hyperlinks item, one, and then we can call the follow method. Again, you could technically use a with statement because you can see these are exactly the same, but if you wanted to break it out, you could do that as well. Nothing's stopping you. So again, it does open it, and then it also did print out the value of that particular one. So, does come in handy if you want to add hyperlinks to particular documents or things along that nature. This is a way that you can programmatically do that, and then also add some customizability to your particular slide. So with that being said, though, that actually concludes this video. If you have any questions about how to work with a slide object or some of the properties of a particular slide object, please put them down in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you. Also, if you could make sure to like the video, we always appreciate the support, and we're glad to see it. And then, if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you get regular updates as we release new videos. So thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video.